Hi everyone, I am Lionel Sanchez, and if you are new to my channel, I am an interior designer and I teach interior design as well. So for this video, we are going to talk about the code of ethics of the interior designers in reference to the Professional Regulation Commission of the Board of Interior Design. Okay, so if you have a copy of the Code of Ethics, which you can find on the link down below, the first part of the Code of Ethics contains the interior designer's pledge, which we will not get into in this video. So again, the first part is a pledge, and on the second part are the responsibilities of the interior designer to his profession, to his client, and to the architect, to manufacturers, contractors, and suppliers, in relation to his colleagues and subordinates, and in relation to the people at large. Okay, so we will try to dive into each segment one by one, and then we'll start with the responsibilities of the profession. So in this first paragraph, so by the way, this video is sort of like a summary of the interior designer's code of ethics. Okay, so for the first part, it says that the interior design profession calls for someone with the highest integrity, judgment, business acumen, artistic and technical ability. So it describes the professional conduct of which the interior designer should properly behave. So also herein are the duties and responsibilities, and then it goes to enumerating them. So the first part is in relation to the client. Okay, so the first part, number one, rather, is that the interior designer should always have should always be charged with a separate fee. So the explanation for the first item is that as an interior designer, you cannot give away your ideas for free, and even sketches for free. So it says here in the Code of Ethics that it is important that the basis of which wherein the client will decide who his or her interior designer will be is by means of portfolio. So there are times when the client will ask free sketches from the client, and sometimes it is done in a bidding process. So I'd like to say that that is unethical. The main basis of which the client should decide is by means of the interior designer's portfolio. So it is unethical for the client to ask for free samples and free ideas, and also unethical for the interior designer to give away his sketches, even if it is preliminary, for free and without compensation. Okay, so that is the first one. And then the second one, it is important that beforehand, prior to entering into an agreement with the client, it is important that the interior designer should acquaint the client the exact scope of services and the professional fee. So again, it's important that on the onset, the client knows the professional charges and the payment scheme of the interior designer. For number three is the estimation. So the interior designer should explain that the estimates have only a conditional character, other than the estimates submitted in the form of actual proposals. by the contractor, and in no guarantee shall the interior designer say that the estimates are the actual costs of work. So especially in the schematic design phase, it is important to inform the client that these estimates have a conditional character and may not actually be the actual costs that will be proposed by the contractor. Okay. The fourth one is that it's a general statement wherein it says that the interior designer should always be aware of the life and well-being of the public, especially if the project is a commercial or an institutional project. So interior designer should always be aware that he should safeguard the life and well-being of the end users. Okay. And then fifthly, the interior designer shall charge his client based on the basic minimum fee prescribed by the Philippine Institute of Interior Designers. So it is important that as interior designers, we are aware of the basic fees that are prescribed by the PIID and the interior design organization. Basically, this does away with the unethical diving of the prices, especially if the project is being bidded out. So usually this will avoid the case wherein, for example, if two designers or three designers are being bidded out and their fees are very far from each other. So basically the aim of this is that it will create a healthy competition among the interior designers. And then we have in relation to the architect. So in relation to the architect, the interior designer, without the proper consent of the architect, shall not make any architectural changes in the plans or in the specifications. So it is important that interior designers, we know our role and we know the scope and our expertise. And then the interior designer shall not make malicious criticisms of the structure of the plans of the architect, especially if the client is soliciting your comment regarding the architecture of the building. It is unethical for you to make any malicious criticisms, but probably constructive criticism, yes, but not malicious criticism towards the design of the architect. And also the interior designer, if an architect is involved, shall always work in cooperation with the architect. And the interior designer shall not make any architectural plans for any buildings or project that is designed by the architect but passed on as a work of the interior designer's firm, unless the interior designer too is an architect. So, and this also applies vice versa, that if you are an architect, you cannot claim interior designer plans and pass it as the architect's own drawings and specifications. So just like, for example, for other trades, an architect also cannot sign the plans of the master plumber, or unless he is also a master plumber, or the mechanical engineer cannot sign for the plans of the electrical engineer. So as professionals, we should know our boundaries, we should know our scope, and we should respect each other's expertise. Okay. So with regards to the relation to his clients and subordinates, the interior designer shall not render professional services without compensation. So this is somehow connected to the first one earlier, wherein it says that interior designers should be compensated even for giving away initial ideas. It is very important to always remember that we should not give away the ideas for free, especially in the case of projects that are being bidded out. Okay, except there is one exception. We can give away our expertise, our ideas, our designs for free in the case of civic and community projects. So for example, for nonprofit organizations, we can render our services for free. Okay. So even it somehow like restates it here again that we shall neither offer nor provide preliminary services on a conditional basis prior to a definite agreement with the client for the commission of the projects. Okay. And then the second one, the interior designer shall not knowingly compete with other interior designers on the basis of difference of professional charges. So this is also in connection with interior designer following the prescribed fees of the Philippine Institute of the Interior Designers. Okay, so we should always remember that this one is to encourage a healthy competition among interior designers. So as interior designers, we should not dive again, especially when the project is being bidded out. As much as possible, we should be guided by the prescribed fees of the Philippine Institute of Interior Designers, document number 5. Okay, and we should neither use donation as a device for obtaining competitive advantage, except for worthy civic and community projects. Okay, so again, stated, neither shall the interior designer submit solicited or unsolicited sketches or drawings in competition with other interior designers. Okay. Thirdly, the interior designer shall not, under any circumstance, seek when a project has already been previously endowed to another interior designer. We should not steal the job from the interior designer if the project is already endowed to another interior designer. And somehow it is connection to the fourth one, which is if we know that there is that interior designer shall not undertake a commission for which he knows another interior designer has been previously employed until he has notified such other interior designer. So you can take the job of another interior designer only if there is such a notification that the previous interior designer, it has to be in writing, has already conclusively determined that the original employment has been terminated and has been duly compensated for. So again, it is important that we should not steal the job of another interior designer unless in written notice the previous interior designer has already been notified and the previous interior designer has been compensated properly. Okay, so notified officially that the interior designer has been terminated, shall we say. And then fifthly, the interior designer shall not knowingly or force injure falsely or maliciously the professional reputation. This is very important. Prospects or practice of another interior designer. So it is very unethical to say any gossips against another interior designer. Okay, and then because we are, especially if the other interior designers are her colleagues, so again, gossiping against another interior designer is very unethical. I, well, that's gossiping in general. No, it's really unethical. So the interior designer shall not in any case engage in a competition. If the interior design competition, say for example, the contestant is a family member or a close friend, so if you are being hired as a judge, then it is important that you notify the organizers of the competition. Okay. And then seventh, the interior designer shall inspire the loyalty of his employees and subordinates, and these subordinates and employees should be compensated properly when you are in it, when you have an interior design firm. Okay. And then eighth, the interior designer shall unselfishly give his share in the interchange of technical information and experience among his colleagues, young aspirants, and do his or her part in fostering unity and the fellowship of the profession. And then this is the sixth one, which is the final one rather, which is in relation to the people. Okay, so the interior designer shall seek opportunities to be constructive service in the civic and urban affairs. Basically, it says that as interior designers, we should be involved in our community, especially if it involves the historic and architectural heritage of the nation. Okay. And then the interior designer shall promote the interest of the professional organization. So basically, it says that as interior designers, we should promote the causes and the advocacies of the Philippine Institute of Interior Designers. Okay. And then thirdly, with regards to in relation to the people, the interior designer, as a good citizen, abide and observe the laws and regulations of the profession in the Philippines. Okay, and then lastly, the interior designer shall not mislead the public through advertisements, signs, or printed matter. So even online, citing that his or her professional specialization, unless such qualifications are well-known facts or sanctioned by professional consensus and years of experience. So what that means is that you are not allowed to advertise false information with regards to your experience, your qualifications, and your educational background. Okay, so basically that's it with regards to the interior design code of ethics. By the way, lastly, it also says here that this code of ethics shall take effect 15 days. As with other laws and codes, that it has to be published by the official Gazette of the Philippines for the code of ethics to take effect. So this was published on the 11th day of February 1985. So with regards to the code of ethics, there have been talks recently that the code of ethics will be updated. As I spoke with the current vice president of the Philippine Institute of Interior Designers, Trisha Padernal, she mentioned that there is, or rather there are talks to update the Code of Ethics of the Interior Designers of the Philippines by the PRC. So how about you? What are your thoughts regarding the Code of Ethics? Do you think it should be updated? Do you think there are some things that should be added? And do you think there are things that should be excluded? And if they plan to revise or amend the Code of Ethics. So if you have any thoughts, if you have any comments with the Code of Ethics, please let me know by commenting below. Okay, so again, if you find this information and this channel useful, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. So in this channel will be disseminating all about the interior design profession in the Philippines. Okay, so I hope you have a good day and see you in the next video. Bye.